Have you and your partner ever gone through a life and death moment together? And if, in that moment, the first thing your partner does is protect you, that must be true happiness. Before this story begins, thank you for clicking on it. This is a story about a woman abandoned by her husband and her best friend in the middle of a fire. Promise me, read to the end. I've prepared a gift for you. My birthday party was on fire. Flames spread fast. Smoke thickened. People screamed. And in the chaos, my husband Mike grabbed my best friend Chloe into his arms and bolted out without even looking back. I was knocked to the ground by the panicked crowd. My right hand was crushed and broken under someone's foot. Just moments ago, I had been the center of this party. Now I was a clown lying unnoticed on the floor. The door burst open again. It was Mike. He walked toward me and saw I had already passed out. In my left hand, I was still clutching my phone. On the screen was the message I sent him 1 minute earlier: "We're getting a divorce." I woke up to the sharp smell of disinfectant. My right hand was wrapped in thick bandages and secured in a cast. The hospital room was empty, just me. A disposable cup of water on the bedside table. Not even a single flower. The door opened, and Mike walked in carrying a plastic convenience store bag. "You're awake," he said, setting the bag down. "The doctor said your right hand is fractured. You'll need 6 to 8 weeks of rest." His tone was as flat as if he were reporting the weather. Not a trace of guilt on his face. I looked at him, this man I had loved for 5 years. The moment he ran out of the fire holding Chloe instead of me, something inside me died completely. "Did you bring the divorce papers?" I asked. My voice was hoarse from inhaling smoke. Mike frowned. "Don't be ridiculous, Ivy. It was chaos. I didn't even see you on the ground." "You did." My voice was calm. "When you came back for me, our eyes met. You saw me. You just chose to save her first." His silence was louder than any excuse. "Chloe was terrified. She signed the divorce papers and you can take care of her properly." I cut him off. "I'm giving you both your freedom." Mike's expression finally cracked. "Just because I made one mistake?" "No." I lifted my injured hand slightly. "Because that mistake cost me my hand. Maybe even my career. As a jewelry designer, my hands are everything. Now, with a wrist fracture that might leave permanent damage, the doctor couldn't promise I'd ever fully recover." Mike's phone rang. He glanced at it, and tension flashed across his face. "Go ahead," I said. "Your lover probably needs you." He hesitated, then walked to the window and answered in a low voice. "I'll be right there." "Don't worry." "It's okay." When he hung up, he turned to me. "There are reporters outside. The fire made the news. I asked my assistant to handle it, but I need to leave through the back." I laughed, dry, painful, bitter. "Go, Mike. But remember this, you didn't abandon me. I'm abandoning you." He opened his mouth, closed it again, and walked out. When the door shut, I picked up my phone with my left hand and dialed a number. "Lisa," I said to my lawyer, "start preparing the divorce documents. I want this marriage ended as soon as possible, and I want him to pay." After hanging up, I opened social media. The fire was already trending. Someone had snapped a photo of Mike rushing out with Chloe in his arms. "Heroic husband rescues wife's best friend during fire." How perfect. A shining story of courage. And no one remembered the wife left inside the flames. I took a deep breath and typed a post with my left hand. "Thank you for the concern, everyone. I'm alive, though my right hand is fractured and may affect my design work. Big thanks to my husband at Mike for saving my best friend at Chloe." As for me, I crawled out by myself. And at Mike, the divorce papers will be arriving soon. I attached a picture of my casted hand and the hospital location. Within 5 minutes, my phone was vibrating nonstop, messages of shock, support, outrage. I turned off notifications and leaned back against the pillow. Let them talk. The door opened again, this time. It was Chloe. Not a single hair on her head was out of place. Perfect makeup, perfect posture. Nothing like someone who had just escaped a fire. "Ivy," she whispered, eyes shimmering with tears. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know Mike would, didn't know he'd save you instead of me." I finished for her. "Or didn't know I would file for divorce?" She bit her lip. "It was just an instinctive reaction. You can't blame him for that." "You're right." I nodded. Instinct shows who someone truly cares about. Her expression froze for a second before she softened again. "I don't want a man to ruin our friendship. We're best friends, Ivy." I looked at her, this woman who had always lived in my shadow. My successful career. My seemingly perfect marriage. She had craved tearing down everything I had. We don't have a friendship anymore, Chloe, I said quietly. Not since the moment you were lying in my husband's arms. Her mask finally cracked. A glint of triumph flickered in her eyes. You know where Mike stayed last night? At my place. He was worried I was traumatized. A sharp pain stabbed my chest, but I didn't flinch. Great, I said calmly. Then you'll get used to taking care of my ex-husband early. Just a reminder, he likes to leave his socks everywhere, and he never cleans the toilet seat. Chloe blinked, clearly not expecting my reaction. And one more thing, I added. Since your involvement contributed to my divorce, my lawyer suggests I keep the option open to sue you for damages. Of course, that depends on how satisfied I am with the divorce settlement. Her face went pale. You can't do that, I can, I said, voice steady. Now please leave. I need rest. She stormed out. When she was gone, tears finally welled in my eyes, but I forced them back. I would not cry for them. I opened the convenience store bag Mike had left, a bottle of water and a sad-looking sandwich. But underneath the sandwich was something unexpected, a tube of burn ointment. On the label, in handwriting I recognized, were the words, for the burns. Apply 3 times a day. It wasn't Mike's handwriting. Frowning, I called the nurse's station. Did someone leave burn ointment for me? Yes, the nurse replied. Dr. Lee did. He's one of the physicians overseeing your case. I hung up and examined the ointment again. Ordinary tube, ordinary label, but the handwriting felt familiar. There was a knock at the door. Come in, I said. A young doctor in a white coat walked in. His name tag read Dr. Julian Lee. How are you feeling, Ms. Lin? He asked, his voice gentle. I'm okay, except for my hand hurting like hell. By the way, thank you for the ointment. He blinked, confused. Ointment? I held up the tube. You didn't leave this for me? He inspected it and shook his head. No, and this isn't from our hospital stock, we use a different brand. We stared at each other. Maybe another doctor or a visitor brought it, he finally said. But this ointment is suitable for your burns, so you can use it. After he left, I stared at the tube again. If it wasn't Mike, and it wasn't the doctor. Who left it? My phone buzzed. Lisa again. Ivy, she said. Mike's lawyer contacted me. They want a peaceful settlement. They're offering you a condo and alimony. Not enough, I replied. I want 30% of his company shares. And the house. Lisa sucked in a breath. That's half his assets. He'll never agree. Oh, he will, I said coldly. Or I'll make everything public, him, Chloe, and all those little accounting issues he tried to hide. Remember how the IRS audited his company last month? Silence. Finally, Lisa asked, Are you sure, Ivy? This could destroy him. I looked at my bandaged hand. He already destroyed the most important part of my life. Lisa. Now it's his turn. Lisa worked fast. 3 days later, when I was discharged, with my right hand still in a cast, the revised divorce agreement had already arrived from Mike's lawyers. He accepted most of your terms, Lisa said, spreading the documents across the hotel room table. 15% of the company shares. And the villa. But he refuses to admit he cheated. He insists he and Chloe are just friends. I laughed bitterly. Of course he won't admit it. That would ruin his perfect public persona. And this, Lisa handed me a check. He calls it compensation. In exchange, he hopes you'll keep a good relationship with the media. I looked at the number, enough for me to retire comfortably. A hush money check. Tell him I don't need his charity, I said, pushing the check back. I want fairness. Not hush money. Lisa hesitated. Ivy, what did your doctor say about your hand? I lowered my gaze. Even with therapy, even with luck, the chances of my hand fully recovering were slim. My career, the career I had built with passion and years of training, was hanging by a thread. He said it'll take time. I replied shortly, and then changed the subject. How's Mike's company? Lisa raised an eyebrow. Oh, you heard? They're chasing the Blue Wave Group's major contract. If they win it, the valuation could double. I smiled slightly. Of course I knew. Because I was the one who helped Mike secure the connection in the first place. Blue Wave's vice president was my college friend. Tell Mike I want 25% of the company shares, I said. Or I'll call my friend and tell him everything. Lisa inhaled sharply. Ivy, that's basically ransom. No, I corrected her. That's negotiation. He built his empire using my connections. I'm just taking back what's mine. After Lisa left, I stood at the hotel window, looking down at the city lights. Just a week ago, I lived in that luxurious villa, playing the role of the perfect wife. Now I was living in a hotel, with a broken hand and a broken marriage. And yet, for the first time in years, I felt free. The doorbell rang. I expected room service, but when I opened the door, an unexpected person stood there, Chloe's younger brother, Ethan. He held a thermal food container, his face expressionless. "My sister asked me to bring you this," he said, handing it over. "She said you need nutrition." I raised an eyebrow. "She sent you? Or did you come on your own?" Ethan didn't answer. His eyes drifted to my cast. "What did the doctor say?" "Maybe I'll never design jewelry again," I replied calmly, stepping aside to let him in. I had known Ethan since college, quiet, reserved, almost invisible. He rarely spoke more than a few words. He placed the container on the table and opened it. The rich aroma of chicken soup filled the room. "Eat," he said simply, then began checking the windows and the door locks. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Making sure you're safe." "Who told you I wasn't safe?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled something from his pocket and set it on the table. A tube of burn ointment, the exact same brand as the mysterious one left in the hospital. "It was you?" I stared at him. "You were the one who left the ointment?" He nodded and continued checking the room. "But why? We barely talked before." Ethan paused. Then he turned toward me, his dark eyes uncharacteristically direct. "You said something at Mike's birthday party," he quietly reminded me. "You said my designs had soul, that I shouldn't give up." I froze. That memory was distant. 3 years ago, at Mike's company anniversary, Ethan had shown his portfolio hoping Mike would invest in his studio. Mike publicly mocked him. Later, I found Ethan alone and told him the truth, that his work was full of potential. "Just because of that?" I whispered. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, almost a smile. "Just because of that." He finished checking the room and returned to the table. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "The fire wasn't an accident." The spoon fell from my fingers. "What?" I looked into it, Ethan said, pulling up some photos on his phone. "The fire started at the kitchen electrical panel, but it was inspected recently, no chance of spontaneous failure." A chill crept up my spine. "You're saying someone said it?" "A week before the fire," Ethan continued, "Mike bought a large life insurance policy for you." My breath caught. "Worth $5 million. He's the sole beneficiary." My legs gave out and I sank onto a chair. This wasn't just betrayal. Not just infidelity. This was attempted murder. "Does the police know?" I forced out. "No," Ethan said. "I wanted to ask you first." I inhaled deeply, fighting the nausea. "If this is true, Mike is a criminal. We need proof," I said. "Solid proof." "I'm already working on it," he replied. He went to leave, but I stopped him. "Ethan," I called softly, "why are you helping me?" He didn't turn around, but his voice was low and firm. "Because someone needs to know, you're worth far more than just being someone's wife or someone's brand asset." He closed the door gently behind him, leaving me alone with the truth and a terror I had never known before. The next day, I arranged to meet Mike. I chose a restaurant we used to visit often, public, bright, safe. He arrived with his lawyer. I arrived alone, right hand still in a cast. "You've thought it through?" Mike asked, skipping greetings. He pushed a new agreement toward me. "Sign this, and we can end things peacefully." I glanced at it. Slightly better terms than before, but still far from fair. "I had a dream last night," I began softly, not touching the papers, "about when we first got married." Mike looked up, startled. "Remember that tiny apartment we lived in? No air conditioning. In the summer we couldn't sleep, so we'd climb up to the roof and look at the stars." His expression softened, just for a second. "Ivy, you told me that when you had money, you'd buy me all the jewelry I wanted." I smiled faintly. "And I told you I didn't care about jewelry. I just cared about us." His lawyer cleared his throat. "Mr. Clark," Mike raised a hand to silence him. "We've both changed." "Ivy," he said quietly. "Yes." I nodded. "You changed into someone who tried to kill me for money." His face drained of color instantly. His lawyer shot to his feet. "This is defamation. Sit down," I said coldly. "Or I call the insurance company right now and ask about the $5 million life policy." The restaurant fell silent around us. Mike motioned for his lawyer to sit. Then he leaned in, voice low and tense. Where did you hear that nonsense? So you're saying the insurance doesn't exist? I countered. He said nothing. My laughter was soft, humorless. Relax. I haven't called the police. After all, we did love each other once. Didn't we? His jaw clenched. What do you want? 30% of your company. I said. The villa. And that beachfront apartment. The one you recently bought for you and Chloe, right? His mouth tightened. Impossible. Then see you in court. I said, rising from my seat. And I'll make sure every reporter in this city hears about the cheating, the insurance, and the attempted arson. I turned to leave. Mike grabbed my wrist, my only good hand. You have no evidence. I stared at his grip until he let go. If you want to make a scene, I said quietly, do it without touching me. He released me, trembling with anger. At the door, I looked back. Mike was still sitting there, the man I once loved. Now looking small, panicked, and utterly unfamiliar. When I returned to the hotel, Ethan was waiting. He agreed, I said, setting down my bag. Lisa just called. Mike accepted all the conditions. Ethan nodded, as if he already expected this. But I didn't mention the fire. I admitted, what if there really is a chance it was just an accident? What if the insurance policy was just coincidence? Ethan pulled out his tablet and opened a surveillance clip. On the screen, the night of the fire, Mike's personal assistant sneaking into the villa's kitchen. He confessed, Ethan said flatly. Mike told him to create a small fire. Just enough chaos to get you injured and hospitalized for a while, so you wouldn't discover Mike's asset transfers. I felt the world tilt. My knees nearly buckled. Why is the assistant confessing now? I whispered. Ethan showed another document. Because Mike shorted him, he said. He promised money, then fired him afterward and wouldn't pay. Not even severance. A bitter laugh escaped me. Of course. Mike's greed finally betrayed himself. We should go to the police, I said. Ethan shook his head. Wait 2 more days. Why? Because tomorrow, he said calmly, is the day Blue Wave Group announces the contract. Let Mike taste victory first, then lose everything. I stared at him, this quiet man with the gentle eyes and sharp mind. You're more dangerous than I thought, Ethan. He finally smiled. A real one. And you, Ivy Lynn, are stronger than anyone ever realized. The next day, every major business outlet reported the same headline. Mike Clark's tech company had secured the Blue Wave Group contract. The company's stock surged. Mike appeared in interviews, beaming, glowing, triumphant. Not a single mention of the divorce or the scandal brewing beneath. Meanwhile, I sat in Lisa's office and signed the final divorce agreement. 30% of the company, the villa, the beachfront apartment, all mine. The moment my pen lifted from the paper, an odd emptiness washed over me. 5 years of marriage, now reduced to numbers on a contract. When I walked out of the courthouse, Ethan was waiting by his car. Now? He asked. Across the street stood the police station. I was holding a folder packed with evidence, surveillance footage, insurance documents, and the assistant's signed statement. All of it enough to put Mike away for a long time. I stared at the police station door, at the people going in and out, everyone carrying their own burdens, tragedies, crimes. Then I closed my eyes. No, I said finally. Not yet. Ethan blinked, surprised but not questioning. He'll face consequences, I said softly. But I don't need to be the one to throw the first stone. I don't want revenge to define the rest of my life. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. You're more merciful than I expected. It's not mercy, I corrected him. It's freedom. I pulled out my phone and called Lisa. Lisa, help me contact several investors. I want to sell all my company shares, yes, all of them, at 5% below market value. When I hung up, Ethan stared at me. You're really doing this? Sometimes, I said. The best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's simply moving on and living better. A week later, news broke that I had sold my shares. Mike's company stock plummeted. The market panicked. Blue Wave Group, citing executive instability, re-evaluated their cooperation. Within days, the contract was frozen. Mike's empire began to crumble. And me? I used the funds from selling my shares to do something no one expected. I bought an old factory building, a rundown textile mill, 6,000 square feet, high ceilings, giant north-facing windows. My new project, my new life. When Ethan and I stepped into the vast empty space, Dust floated in the sunlight like tiny gold flakes. "What's the plan?" he asked, his voice echoing in the cavernous room. I spread out the renovation sketches with my left hand, the only hand I could fully use now. "A design workshop," I said, "for artists and creators who deserve a chance. Not just for me." He scanned the blueprint, eyes lighting up. "Including me?" he asked. I smiled. "Especially you." I offered my left hand. He took it, warm, steady. The old factory smelled of dust and rust, but to me it felt like standing inside a blank canvas, a place waiting to be reborn. My right hand was still wrapped in a cast. I held a renovation blueprint in my left hand as Ethan climbed down from the second floor. Sleeves rolled up, face smudged with construction dust. "Structural check is done," he reported. "Better than expected. Load-bearing walls are solid. Roof needs patching, but nothing major." "What about the budget?" I asked. He grimaced slightly. 20% over. "Most of it is the electrical rewiring and fire safety upgrades. We can't cut corners on those." I nodded. Safety was no longer something I would ever take for granted. He handed me a bottle of water, already opened, because he knew I couldn't twist the cap with my cast. "What about the name?" he asked. "For the workshop. Rebirth Design Studio," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "Honestly, I expected something like Phoenix or Nirvana." I chuckled. "That's for people who need the symbolism. We're here to do real work, not perform drama." My phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. "Mike is stirring trouble again. He gathered minor shareholders to question the legality of your stock sale." I texted back, "Let attorney Zhang handle it. Push forward as planned." Ethan studied my face. "Need help? Can you invent a device that makes ex-husbands disappear?" I asked. He pretended to think. "Technically possible, legally questionable." I couldn't help laughing, a real laugh. The first since the fire. The next 3 weeks, we practically lived in the factory. I handled design concepts and supplier negotiations. Ethan handled construction oversight, measurements, and anything involving physical labor. My right hand remained weak. Even holding a pencil hurt. So I trained myself to draw with my left hand. Slowly, awkwardly, but persistently. "Your left hand's getting pretty good," Ethan commented one afternoon, watching me sketch. "Survival instinct." I muttered. "Doctor said my right hand may never recover full precision." He was silent for a moment, then said, "Then you create a different kind of precision. Art isn't about which hand you use, it's about what you say through it." I looked up at him. "Where do you get these philosophical lines?" "Personal experience," he replied, moving to inspect a crate of equipment. Ethan never talked much about himself, but from scattered clues, I gathered, a talented designer overshadowed by his glamorous sister, a man who had lost opportunities due to accidents or politics, a quiet soul who preferred shadows but understood light better than anyone. In many ways, we were the same. 3 weeks later, we held a small pre-opening gathering. I invited a few artist friends. "This place is incredible," Susie exclaimed, picking a spot near the windows. "I want my ceramics corner here, the light is perfect. Upstairs can be divided into private studios," Ethan added, "for artists who need solo space." Everyone's excitement created a buzz in the air, the first spark of the creative community I had dreamed of. Then the door opened. A hush fell. Mike walked in. He looked different, thinner, hollow-eyed, his perfectly styled hair now messy. His presence clashed sharply with the work boots, paint-stained overalls, and easy laughter of the artists. "How touching," Mike said dryly, scanning the room. "You built a little kingdom with my money." I stepped toward him calmly. "First, it's my legally awarded assets. Second, if you came here to fight, leave." He inhaled slowly, visibly trying to control himself. "I need to talk to you. Alone." I nodded to the others and took him to a corner office. Blue Wave pulled out. Mike said immediately, "No contract. Stock plummeting. Board wants me gone." "I'm aware," I said coolly. "You did this," he accused. "No," I corrected. "Your choices did. I just stopped covering for you." He stared at my cast. "The doctor said your hand might not recover?" I froze. That question, it was too gentle, too familiar. For a second, it felt like the old Mike, the man I had once loved. "2 more surgeries," I said. "Still no guarantee." He stepped closer. "I can help with the costs. There's a clinic in Switzerland." "No." I stepped back. "I can pay for myself." His jaw tightened. "So you'd rather be crippled than let me help you?" I'd rather be independent than tied to you ever again. Silence. Heavy. Final. He exhaled shakily. Good luck, Ivy. But remember, business is a small world. We'll cross paths again. He left. I leaned on the wall and exhaled until my lungs stopped shaking. Ethan appeared at the doorway. You want me to put him on the blacklist? What blacklist? For studio visitors. His tone was dead serious. I can install facial recognition. I burst into laughter again. But opening week disaster came faster than expected. One rainy night, the security company called. The factory was leaking. Ethan and I rushed there through the storm. Rainwater poured from a cracked section of the roof, soaking thousands of dollars worth of new equipment. Damn it, Ethan muttered, climbing a ladder with a tarp. I held tools with my left hand and called emergency repair crews. By the time we stopped the leak, we were both drenched. We sat in a dry corner, exhausted, watching puddles form beneath ruined equipment. Insurance will cover some of it, I said, but reordering everything, we may not open on time. Ethan didn't reply. He walked to the most damaged 3D printer, knelt, and opened the casing. What are you doing? I asked. Seeing if I can fix it, he said. I used to work in a repair shop before design school. I watched him, wet hair dripping, eyes focused, hands steady. A quiet determination radiated from him. He had been there for every tear, every setback, every crisis, while my husband had plotted my downfall. Ethan, I said softly, why do you help me so much? Really? He froze for a fraction of a second, then resumed working. It's not just because you praised my design, he said. Then why? He put down the tool, turned toward me, and said, because I've seen you at your brightest and at your most broken. And in both states, you never stopped fighting. The rain pounding the metal roof suddenly felt like applause. My sister was always jealous of you, he continued. Your talent, your independence, the way you never bend. But she was right about one thing. What? I whispered. You are unreachable. His voice softened. Not because you're perfect, but because even shattered, you stay true to yourself. The air between us shifted, charged, fragile, intimate. Ethan. My phone rang, slicing the moment clean in half. It was Susie. Ivy. Bad news, she said urgently. I heard Mike is blacklisting anyone who works with Rebirth Studio. Some are backing out. I closed my eyes. Of course, Mike wasn't finished. Thanks, Susie, I said. I hung up and faced Ethan. He's trying to isolate us. Then we find people who don't fear him, Ethan said simply. I nodded. And the next morning, I went to war. The next morning, I did two things. First, I called an old college friend, now the editor-in-chief of a major design magazine. I agreed to an exclusive interview. I would talk about the fire, the injury, the divorce, and the creation of Rebirth Studio. Second, I drafted a collaboration proposal and sent it to several of Mike's biggest competitors. The proposal was simple: support Rebirth Studio, undermine Mike's influence. Ethan read the proposal and looked at me carefully. You're putting yourself in the center of a business war. Mike already dragged me into one, I said calmly. I'm simply choosing not to lose. A week later, the magazine cover story dropped. Full-page photos, me standing in the renovated workshop. Sunlight pouring behind me. My right hand still in a support brace, a symbol of survival, not weakness. The headline read, From the Ashes, Ivy Lynn and her Rebirth Studio. The public loved it. Dozens of independent designers reached out, wanting to join. 3 of Mike's direct competitors offered partnership deals. Mike's blacklist turned into my badge of honor. Suddenly, Rebirth Studio wasn't just surviving, it was becoming a movement. The night before opening day, Ethan and I were performing our final walkthrough. The place was transformed, high ceilings polished to a warm industrial glow, workstations neatly arranged, a small exhibition corner lit like a gallery, artists' pieces already displayed on the walls. Ready? Ethan asked. I took in the space. Everything we fought for. Rebuilt. Reinvented. More ready than ever. He hesitated. There's something I should tell you. I turned toward him. The anonymous benefactor who covered your first surgery bill. He paused. It was me. I blinked. I figured. I said quietly. The ointment. The timing. The way you always show up exactly when I need help. I'm not oblivious, Ethan. He looked almost embarrassed. I didn't want you to feel indebted, Ethan. I said gently. You don't protect me because I'm weak. And I don't rely on you because I'm helpless. We are partners. He nodded slowly. Understood. We closed up the studio and walked out into the warm night air. Above us, the sky was clear, stars scattered across the dark canvas. Tomorrow's going to be good weather, Ethan said, looking up. Tomorrow, I replied, is the beginning of everything. The grand opening of Rebirth Design Studio arrived under a perfect, golden morning sun. The factory had been completely transformed, its old industrial bones preserved, yet infused with warmth and creativity. Tall windows gleamed. Sunlight spilled across polished concrete floors. The workstations were set up. The exhibition corner lit softly, and the lounge area featured handcrafted ceramic pieces from Susie. People poured in, industry peers, reporters, artists, curious locals. Far more than we expected. I wore a clean white shirt and black trousers. My right hand was now in a lighter brace, visible but no longer dominating my presence. I moved through the crowd with calm confidence. I am so proud of you, Lisa whispered as she hugged me. Look around, Ivy. You rebuilt a kingdom from ashes. I smiled, but my gaze drifted, seeking one person. Ethan was by a laser engraving machine, explaining its features to visitors. He wore a fitted dark jacket, hair neatly styled. For once, he looked less like the silent shadow he used to be, and more like a man stepping into the light. Halfway through the ceremony, a familiar tension rippled through the room. People turned. A few whispered. Mike walked in. He looked nothing like the polished CEO from before, eyes tired, posture stiff, face drawn with stress. Defeat clung to him like a scent. Ivy, he said quietly when he reached me. You did it. We did it. I corrected evenly. He scanned the studio, the equipment, the artists, the energy. Something flickered in his eyes, regret. Maybe. Blue Wave officially cancelled the contract. He admitted. Stock crashed. The board suspended me today. I nodded. I already knew. I'm sorry, I said, not with malice, but a simple statement. He gave a small, bitter laugh. No, you're not. This is what you wanted. No, I replied gently. I wanted fairness. Your downfall was built by your own decisions. He looked down, then back at me. I hurt my hand too, he said abruptly, during a lab test. Now I finally understand what losing your hand meant to you. I flinched very slightly. I never meant for things to go this far. He murmured. Clark Tech was everything to me. And what was I? I asked. His breath stuttered. I don't know, he whispered. I think I lost myself somewhere along the way. Silence stretched between us. Ivy, he said softly. I'm sorry, truly. Apologies too late are like flowers on a grave, they cannot resurrect what's already dead. Apology accepted, I said. But we're done. He nodded, eyes heavy, and turned to leave. At the door, he paused, looked back one last time, then stepped into the sunlight and vanished from my life for good. Later, reporters swarmed. I stepped onto the small platform we'd set up. 3 months ago, I began. I lay in a hospital bed with a broken hand, a broken marriage, and no idea how to move forward. The crowded studio fell silent. But endings, I continued, are often just beginnings disguised as disasters. Applause broke out. Rebirth is not just a studio, I said. It's a belief that creativity survives, that people heal, and that even from ashes, we can create art. When I looked toward Ethan, he was already looking at me. The warmth in his gaze wasn't loud or demanding, just steady, grounding. There. Special thanks, I said, to Ethan, for supporting the studio and supporting me in ways I never expected. The room clapped and nudged him forward. He stood beside me, awkward yet calm. By nightfall, guests left one by one. Only Ethan and I remained, cleaning up the last of the celebration. My dad came, he said suddenly. He stayed in a corner the whole time, looked proud. I paused. My father came too, I admitted. He hasn't spoken to me since the fire, but he was there. Some wounds would take longer to heal, but at least they were healing. We went upstairs to the small balcony overlooking the city. Lights glittered. Somewhere in the distance stood the house I used to call home. Next week the doctor removes the brace, I said quietly. He said, even with more surgeries, my right hand may never regain full precision. What will you do? Ethan asked softly. I'll adapt. I'll design with my left hand. Or I'll find new ways to create. Limitation can spark innovation. He smiled. That's exactly what I thought you'd say. Warm wind brushed past us. The night felt soft, full of possibility. I turned to him. "Ethan," I said, "you've been by my side through everything." He didn't interrupt. He didn't rush. He just waited, his presence steady, patient, grounding. "Why?" I asked. His eyes met mine, clear, unflinching. "Because when I saw you in that hospital bed," he said, "you looked broken, but you weren't." His voice dropped, almost a whisper. "You were fighting, even then, and I wanted to be someone who fought with you, not against you." My breath caught. "But I'm still healing," I said. "My trust, my life, my future. I'm rebuilding all of it. I know, and I can't promise anything yet." "You don't have to, and the studio comes first, as it should." We stood there, the city stretching beneath us. I held out my left hand. He gently took it, not pulling, not gripping, just holding. No declarations, no rushing, no labels. Just a beginning, the kind that grows quietly, patiently, without demanding answers today. Below us, the city lights pulsed like a heartbeat. Above us, a slender new moon rose. My right hand was still scarred, my heart still healing, but for the first time, I felt whole. Rebirth had only just begun.